Emma's Universe podcast.
Where do we go from here? Where do we go from here?
Emma's Universe podcast.
Where do we go from here? Where do we go from here?
Emma's Universe podcast.
Hello and welcome to Emma's podcast. Yes. It is a Monday, I believe, on this one. I don't recall everything, people, all right? This is one of those days. What can I say about today's day? It started very early in the morning. In case people don't know, I'm up by about 3 o'clock in the morning. Don't even give me a call or text me because I do not appreciate it. Until you put it into into decent hours. That's, some people think because what do you call it, you're up, then you can be bothered. I'm like, come on, give space to people needs to relax. We do not need to have somebody texting us that early. But getting up that early, and what have I been doing? Painting. Oh boy. And I'm talking outside paint. I'm not talking walls. I'm talking stairs. I'm talking stuff like that. So today's been interesting day because I made it an early start in order to get the first coat on 1, 2, 3, 4 different areas. But very interesting. So, for me, it's about 2 p.m. here, near past 2 p.m. It feels like, okay, I can unwind a little bit. So I'm going to do my podcast. In today's podcast, actually, we're going to be talking about the power of teeny steps and how small choices create life-changing momentum. Hello, let's do that. So let's get started because we are diving into one of the most underestimated forces in personal growth, the power of small steps. In a world that constantly pushes us to think big, move fast, and hustle hard, we often overlook the quiet, steady transformation that happens when we commit to teeny actions. Whether you try to rebuild, restart, or reimagine your life, today's episode will remind you, and all of us actually, that it's the little things done consistently that change everything, which is so true if you think about it. Because most people get overwhelmed when you think about doing changes in our lives. And I'm going to take the example. I don't know why this one come up again, but New Year's Eve resolution. To me, I may be a rebel with a cause, not without, but with a cause, because I've never been a fan of this because I've seen too many times people putting high expectation, all pumped up. I'm going to go to the fitness club. I'm going to eat better. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And off they go. And like a flat tire, they're going to go boom. Stopped after a month. I remember when I was utilizing fitness clubs. I had one I used to go every day, 5 days a week, go for a half an hour or whatever I needed to do over there. And I noticed January was jam-packed. You could barely utilize items there. Yes, apparatus items. And by the end of January, things were starting to be scarce. People will slowly but surely disappear. And by mid-February, you only had the regular people there. And I'm like, okay, that's interesting, And that's just one example. But again, people who have, pumped them up to such a high expectation, it's becoming too overwhelming. Sometimes you have to take smaller step. And I will say smaller step helps better. So let's start with this truth. Change doesn't have to be dramatic to be powerful. Big leap feels exciting. They look great on Instagram or anywhere else, but more often than not, they are unsustainable. Real change, the kind that sticks, happens slowly, quietly through daily decisions. Think about this. If you walk just 1 mile every day, in a year you would have walked over 365 miles. That's the equivalent of walking from New York City to the border of North Carolina 1 mile a day. That's it. And yet the result is monumental. This is so true. What you do daily shapes who you become permanently. Is that seemingly small decisions, choosing a healthier lunch, journaling before bedtime, sending that one email, drinking a glass of water when you wake up, that accumulate and eventually transform your entire life. So you don't have to go, woohoo, I'm gonna go big, just flop 5 minutes later. I always said, take your time when you make a decision, when you make a change, do it, but don't set up a specific date, and it's gonna be like a huge display. So let's talk about real life example, because that to me is so interesting. So we're gonna start with career change. I once worked with someone who felt stuck in a soul crushing job. She did not have the time or the energy to quit everything and start over, because that's the biggest things. Most people are accustomed to their routines. So we don't want to disturb our routine because it brings us again into the unknown. Unknown equal fear for most people, where unknown should be I thrive into it, I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do a life-changing thing, it's gonna be awesome. But most people don't. So instead of, she committed to spend just 15 minutes a day exploring new career and updating her resume. 6 months later, she landed a job in a completely different field, not overnight, but because she honored the small steps. And I've recommended several times to people, update your resume, check what's out there. You don't have to put your life upside down, but if you don't feel you're moving forward in your career, you're stuck where you are. And most of people, not 100%, not 50%, maybe 20, 30%, feel stuck because they have out what? Outgrown. Oh my God. See, this is what happened when you get up at 3 o'clock in the morning. They have outgrown their positions, and it's time to move on. It's time to do something a little bit. I'm not going to say a little bit better. I was going to say a little bit better. It's not something better, but something different. Because when you have learned those skill set, you don't need to continue there. You move on to something else. This is what I've done all my life. That's why my resume is not 2 pages, but I condense it in 2. But it's like about 20 pages. Something to put you to sleep with. But it's all of the diversity of the jobs and the expansion of what I was doing. I always started with a specific position, and then I moved up or expanded my role. I'm like a cat. I expand. I don't ask for it, but I always get, you get part of a project and you connect with people and you do more things, more interesting things. You still do your daily things, but you do other things that you learn more about. This is what I like, the learning part of it. So when you have that, when you take one simple small decision like she did, just brush up your resume, check what there is out there, because you might find that when you adapt your resume to where you want to go, or you feel something more interesting out there, not inside, because I saw a lot of people trying to do internal change, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. So instead of feeling stuck in the same company, and I know, we go back to the habit, we go back to the people that we know. We don't want to change because we like the people we know the place, we know how it works. But the excitement of taking something new, different, will help us to grow. Completely change your field, because you have, we have those skill sets that are adaptable to other field. So taking that opportunity to do it one step at a time, you don't have to rush, then why not doing it? So that's one thing. Now let's talk about the mental health, because we talk about the career, but let's talk about the mental health. Because another friend started writing 3 things she was grateful for every morning during a season of depression, and it was tough for her. That 5-minute practice did not fix everything, but it created a window, a small moment of light that eventually opened the door to deeper healing. Again, those are kind of example you can take. You can do it in the morning, you can do it at night, but taking the time and those small steps, even for mental health, you can. And I started to do that in one of the company. I share that story quite often about instead of taking a lunch because I was drinking what do you call it? Oh, shakes. No, and I'm not talking alcoholic one, people. I'm talking regular shakes. And those protein shakes was easy for me because I work. Well, I decided one day, why don't I start to take breaks? In the lunchtime, I went and started to go and walk. It was a nice way to break the day. It was great because it helped me to unwind for the moment I was doing a power walk. It depends because some days I used to do power walk, some days I do regular walk, some days I do slow walk. It all depends. And focusing on everything else except then work. It really helped to continue to do that. Same with the yoga, same with the exercise I'm doing right now. There is a lot of things you can do, but you don't have to go big. The game here is take baby steps, teeny shifts that matters. That's what it is. It's real life example of teeny shifts that matters, because those are really the key. That's something that helps you to try to build up everything. Now, creative dreams. Let's talk about this. So, how many people dream of writing a book but never starts? Imagine writing just a paragraph a day. That's all. In a year, you had more than 300 paragraphs, and you'll be far closer to that finished manuscript or book than if you waited for the perfect time to write it all in one go. Again, you take small bite at everything you do. You don't go crazy, you take and you work at your own pace. This is something that will work in the long run, but most people don't realize that. Now let's talk about why we resist small steps, because there is always a resistance. When we want to do something, my ego will come along and drop you 10,000 excuses why not to do it. So the catch is, we know small steps work. So why don't we take them? Because they don't feel sexy. They are not impressive or dramatic. They don't give us that immediate dopamine hit. We're conditioned to believe that bigger is better and that success should not like a sudden glow up. It should be like a sudden glow up. It's like, oh my God, ta-da-da. But real life is messy. It's non-linear. It's made up of ordinary days that, when strung together with intention, build extraordinary lives. That makes sense? People want instant gratification. I want the result now. I want my big fat ice cream now, but I'm not gonna make it. I'm expecting that it's gonna drop on my lap. Well, you can go to the store and get one. However, in order for you to get one, things has to happen, and somebody in their manufacturing, like Ben & Jerry's, has to make it in their manufacturing. They have to get the ingredients. They have to get the right recipe. They had to find, and you see how the process is, how to get your end product. Now, it's the same thing with ourselves as well. It is not linear. It is not the express bus. It is take the time. It's like when you, and I did it actually, when you want to start your fitness journey. You don't have to think you have to lift 400 pounds right off the bat. You start smaller and you build your muscles, you build yourself up to the point when you're going to be lifting up very easily 400 pounds. But it requires work. If you start your journey as weight loss, don't expect to lose 200 pounds in a week. If you do, it's extremely dangerous. Let's put it this way. But the average, and that was one of the trainer I worked with a year ago, we were talking about it. The average is about 5 to 8 pounds, but 5 pounds a week is healthy. Okay, 4 or 5 pounds a week. A little bit higher could be a little bit riskier. However, you take your time. There is weeks where you're going to lose the pounds, and there is weeks you're going to plateau or you're going to gain pounds before you're going to lose it again. So those are small steps, how to create the right habits and not burn yourself, but see in that journey, how do we evolve? Because what is interesting, and at the beginning when I was a kid, at the beginning, yes, of my life, when I was a kid, I heard enough, it's the journey that matters. And you're like, are you on freaking crack cocaine, people? I just want the end result. I don't care about the journey. But as you grow and you get some wisdom, you're realizing that the journey is more interesting. The end result is fantastic. But the journey to get there is extremely interesting because it's life-changing and transformative. That's what it is. Now, how to start small? Because the biggest question is like, and I always take food as example, so bear with me on this one. I always said when you start something, it's how you want to eat it, like a chocolate. I don't like chocolate cake. They cannot say anything wrong about chocolate cake. Emma loves it. Some people don't. I do. So it's like a chocolate cake, and you got a piece in your plate. How are you gonna start to eat it? You're gonna go by the tip of it. You're gonna go by the crust. You're gonna go by the end of it. Which way you're gonna do it? Same thing with those small steps. So what can we do today? So here's a few ways to make small steps that matters. One, choose one habit you want to build. Not 10, not 20, just one. And break it down. So if it takes more than 5 minutes, make it smaller. But break it down so you can anchor it to something you already do. And after brushing your teeth, maybe you journal for 2 minutes, as an example. Or after lunch, go for a 10-minute walk. Celebrate your win, no matter how small. Progress is progress. I don't care if you lost an inch or a quarter inch on your waist. Celebrate it. Be happy. Be humble. Track it. Not to shame yourself, but to see your momentum over time, because it's nice to have the bigger picture. How in your journey did it went? So the trick is to choose steps that feel too easy to skip. That way, you're more likely to follow through and more likely to keep showing up. Yep. Sounds crazy? Yes, it is. But if you feel like it's too easy to skip, then the way you're doing it, you go through it, and it's awesome. It's like very rewarding. But you really have to think about the overall picture of where you stand with your goals and with your life. Now, again, you got people who will go just on the opposite side and do big leap, which is fine. Because the smaller step you're taking will get you there as fast than if you take a big leap. You're pacing yourself and you are teaching yourself to stay consistent, because consistency is the key. So when you're doing those small steps, you're consistent with yourself and you're showing up for yourself. That to me is one of the biggest things, because people don't show up for themselves. They show up for everybody except themselves. The hardest part of everything in this world, far than I know, far than I've witnessed, it's easier for people to take care of others, but when it comes down to take care of themselves, they don't know how. Well, why don't we reverse this and start with small steps? It's not going to hurt anybody, is it? So before we go and we end this podcast, I want to ask one question for you. What is one small step you can take today that my future self will thank me for? Think about this one. What is one small step, like me, I can take today that my future self will thank me for? And remember, you don't have to see the entire staircase to take the first step. You don't need all of the answers to begin. Because as you move forward, the direction you might take might change in the middle of the course to fit better and align with you. That's the difference. Most people who have businesses, their businesses will grow and evolve and change directions as well. That's the process. So, starting small isn't a weakness, it's wisdom. Every mountain is climbed one step at a time. Every masterpiece is painted one brush stroke at a time. And every new life begins with a single choice. So whether you are today or where you are today, not see, this is the end of my day here. So whether you are, I don't know why universe want to say whether you are or where you are or wherever you are today. It's where you are today. Whatever you're facing, take the next step. Do it with intentions, do it with grace, and trust that something amazing is unfolding. That, I think, is one of the most interesting thoughts, because when you start to change the perspective on things, when you're doing those steps, you're changing your perspective. And as you change your perspective, you're going to see things moving in different direction and mostly positive, because you're changing the way you're thinking, and you're going to be moving and even surprise yourself on the result at the end of the day. So you have to take care of yourself, and one step at a time is the ideal. For everybody that never take care of themselves, maybe it's time to do it. Maybe it's time to make those small changes that really will bring you to the path you need to be on. That to me is one of the best things you can ever do to you and to yourself and to your family and to your outer conditions, one step at a time. Again, it's very overwhelming when we want to make changes in our lives and we are not feeling ready for it. Those small steps will guide you on that path of changes, and it will not be as overwhelming than you think if you were taking a big leap of faith. So think about this. Well, this was our podcast for today, and I have no idea what we're going to be talking on our next podcast. Who knows? Life is always good, so let's surprise us on our next podcast. All my love, guys, and we'll talk to you later. Bye now.
Where do we go from here?
Emma's Universe Podcast.
Where do we go from here? Where do we go from here? Where do we go from here?
Emma's Universe Podcast.
here.